didrikshatam prayena rosho bibhavet yata pashun. Please repeat. Na,
Na,
not.
not.
Vai,
Vai,
but. Satam,
Satam,
of the devotees.
of the devotees.
Vacharana arpita atmanam,
Vacharana Atmanam,
of those who are completely surrendered at your lotus feet.
of those who are completely surrendered at your lotus feet.
Bhuteshu,
Bhuteshu,
among living entities.
among living entities.
Sarveshu,
Sarveshu,
all varieties.
all varieties.
Abhipashyatam,
Abhipashyatam,
perfectly seeing.
perfectly seeing.
Tava,
Tava,
your.
your.
Bhutani,
Bhutani,
living entities.
living entities.
Cha,
Cha,
and.
and
Atmani,
Atmani,
in the supreme.
in the supreme.
Apritak,
Apritak,
non-different.
non-different.
Yidrikshatam,
Didrikshatam,
those who see like that.
those who see like that.
Prayena,
Prayena,
almost always.
almost always.
Rosha,
Rosha,
anger.
anger.
Abhibhavet,
Abhibhavet,
takes place.
takes place.
Yata,
Yata,
exactly like.
exactly like.
Pashun,
Pashun,
the animals.
the animals.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
My dear Lord, devotees who have fully dedicated their lives unto your lotus feet certainly observe your presence as Paramatma in each and every being, and as such they do not differentiate between one living being and another. Such persons treat all living entities equally. They never become overwhelmed by anger like animals, who can see nothing without differentiation. Report. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes angry or kills a demon, materially this may appear unfavorable, but spiritually it is a blissful blessing upon them. Therefore pure devotees do not make any distinction between the Lord's anger and His blessings. They see both with reference to the Lord's behavior with others and themselves. A devotee does not find fault with the behavior of the Lord in any circumstances. Yes, so the specific comparison in this regard is to the anger of a loving parent upon a wayward child. The loving father has always the best interests of his son in his heart. But that son may become wayward, he may become deviated, and then he performs actions under illusion which are not actually for his self-interest. So out of concern, loving concern, the father becomes angry at such a son, chastises him. And this is actually a form of love. The father has always the best interest of his son in mind. That if you become a debauch, if you break the law, if you create scandals, then what is going to become of you? How can I allow this to happen to my son? So then he becomes angry. He may even become violent. He may even strike his son. But as stated here, it is not the kind of anger which is seen in animals. This blind fury which arises from simply the most gross false ego that I am under attack, someone has offended me, so complete mad blindness to strike out, to kill, destroy that enemy. This is animalistic. So that such anger as that cannot be imposed upon the pastimes of the Lord, even in his pastimes of killing such a demon like Hiranyakashipu. You have all, I'm sure, seen at least the photograph of the deity in Sridham Mayapur of Lord Nrsimhadev. So this form of Lord Nrsimhadev is called Stamba Nrsimha. Stamba is the column. So Lord Nrsimhadev has just burst out of the column in that particular form. And he has 10 arms. And as you can see, he's extremely angry. Actually, at this point, the point of his first appearance from the Stamba, Lord Nrsimhadev is most angry. So it means that his anger is not even focused yet. It's just he just exploded out of the Stamba. That's also the force of his anger. And in that particular form, you see, he's now looking. Where's the object of my anger? There's not even any object yet. It's just radiating out in all directions. And he's just now looking, where is that rascal, Hiranyakashipu? And then at that point, when he sees Hiranyakashipu, then the anger becomes focused. It becomes controlled, because it is focused on the object of anger, the demon Hiranyakashipu. So all the forms of Nrsimha that follow, Nrsimha is worshipped in his form of killing the Hiranyakashipu demon when he has him on his lap. That's a typical form. So even there, he's actually in the process of killing Hiranyakashipu. The anger is less than the Stamba Nrsimha form, because the anger is focused. So when the devotees went to South India from Mayapur, those devotees who were put in charge of having the Stamba Nrsimhadev deity carved, so they found a specialist in South India, and they went there and they proposed, please make Stamba Nrsimha. He refused. He said, oh, this form is a bit too much for me. But they preached to him and begged and pleaded, and finally he agreed. So very, very, most ferocious. Actually, Srila Prabhupada said that Lord Nrsimhadev, in one place he says that he is the actual form of the anger of God. In the biblical scriptures you sometimes find this statement, the anger of God. So actually that is the anger of God, Lord Nrsimhadev. And the Stamba Nrsimha deity is the most angry form of the anger of God. But still, that anger is transcendental. It is meant for the good of Lord Nrsimhadev. Of Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu is such a demon, most powerful demon in the whole history of the world. That means that he committed more sinful acts, he committed more offenses than anyone. Anyone before or after. So, from relative vision, someone may say that, well, this was a he may have been a demon, but what God did to him, that was very cruel. To throw him down upon his lap and rip open his abdomen and take the intestines out and even to put them around his neck. What is that? I mean, okay, if this demon has to be killed, then do it quickly, but why like this? Why this kind of savage delight? And how can you say God's anger is not animalistic? After all, that's a half man, half lion form. Already we see the form of an animal is there, and the savagery of the lion is there too. Cruelty. So someone may say like that, but, and of course, Prabhupada's reply would be, well, everything comes from God. Even this savagery. Everything has its origin in God. Therefore, when in the very early days, one ISKCON artist was painting under Prabhupada's direction the killing of Hiranyakashipu. So she had finished the painting according to her conception, and Prabhupada came to see. And Prabhupada looked and said, "Put more blood." There's not enough blood. And then she was a little astonished by this, and he just said, everything comes from Krishna, including this horrible rasa, rasa of horror and shock. So therefore, there should be much more blood spilled all over the floor. Yes, so that is there, it's undeniable. But there is an infinite difference between that so-called savagery, the Lord's delight in killing Hiranyakashipu. Actually, there's an excellent transcendental reason for that delight. Because by being killed, even in this cruel way, Hiranyakashipu is liberated. He was such a sinful demon. No one could be more sinful than him before Hiranyakashipu or after Hiranyakashipu. There's no match. And yet, as we say in that prayer also, Hiranyakashipu Tanu Ringam, the Lord ripped him apart like a little insect with his nakam, his nails. But by that touch, by being touched by the nails of the Lord, Hiranyakashipu was liberated from all of his sins. It's like in Catholic religion, they have this idea of confession to become free of one's sins. But this confession is never effective because they're always coming back. They're actually never liberated. Actually, they're never liberated. Even if the sins, and that is also questionable, whether that wine-drinking priest has any power to grant remission from sins. That's another problem. But even if he could, it doesn't amount to liberation because that sinner keeps coming back. The next day, or next week, he's got another load of sins. So that we are to understand from this that at the time of death, this person cannot be delivered because he doesn't give up sinful activities. If one is liberated, Jivan Mukta, it means liberated in this life. This whole conception that liberation will be after death. There is such. There's what is called Videha Mukti. There's Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti, two kinds of liberation, which are mentioned in the Vedic scriptures. But the one is indicative of the other. In other words, if you are Jivan Mukta, if you are liberated in this lifetime, and what does that mean if you're free of sins? If you're living your life in this body, but you're not committing any sinful activities, then that is the proof that when you give this body up, you will attain Videha Mukti, which means liberation without a material body, going back home, back to Godhead, never taking birth again. So the proof is Jivan Mukta. So if someone is sinning repeatedly, again and again and again, then what is the use of him thinking, well, yes, but when I die, I will go up. There's no use in that kind. That's a false hope. So we can see by this such process as confession in the Christian church or in the Karmakanda system under Vedic culture, there's prayashchitta. It is a very similar thing. One goes before the Brahmin, who is a priest in Vedic culture, and confesses his sin. I have done such and such bad thing. And then that Brahmin will look up in his books. He has his various Karmakanda Dharma Shastras. You have, of course, there's many, many more sins than that are known to the Christians. So even if it's something like, I've stepped on a spider, when he looks up, he finds that sin in the book, and then he has to do some kind of penance, prayaschitta, some kind of penance. He should fast, he should make some offering, some yajna should be performed like that in order to become relieved. But also in this process, it's actually a kind of business. The karmis who follow this karmakanda system, then they keep such prayaschitta brahmins in their employ. They keep them well funded so that they'll stay in the village, so that they can keep coming back. I've done this today. Well, I've done that. And then he's making good business. So that also, this prayaschitta is not bringing about liberation. So it is so difficult for a sinful person to become free from sins. And what to speak of Hiranyakashipu, who is the most sinful. He was so arrogant. There's no question of him going to a church and asking the priest, Father, forgive me for I have sinned. Today I just conquered the heavenly planet. There's no question of him doing anything like that, because he was convinced that I'm God, I'm the Supreme. There's no one to impose any sinful reactions on me. I'm the controller. All these demigods, because when the sins are calculated, the witnesses are the demigods. Of course, there is Paramatma in the heart as the ultimate witness and judge. But there, just like in any court, there are those who give testimony. Witnesses are called. What did you see last Saturday night in the park? I saw this man, he was drunk. You see, like that. So they're called, and then the testimony is assembled and judgment is made on that basis. So similarly, the Paramatma, he takes, at the time of judging a person's karma, he takes the testimony from the principal demigods. There are 12 different demigods ruling 12 directions. So they testify. We saw him do this, we saw him do that. And that is the court record. And then judgment is served according to that. So, but Hiranyakashipu was thinking, I have conquered all these rascal demigods. Who's going to witness against me? If I look at them, they're shaking in fear. No one is going to step forward and say anything about me. And as far as this Paramatma, wait till I catch him. I'm all ready. So he was totally arrogant. He thought he had the universe in the palm of his hand. He thought that birth and death and old age and disease were his servants. This was his idea. So how can such a person be benefited? How can he be relieved of his sinful life? So that Lord Nrsimhadev did. And we can understand, therefore, that delight, that seeming cruel delight, is actually the Lord's delight in seeing another, and in this case, most conditioned soul, freed from all his sinful life. So, this is actually the Lord's happiness. And so, our mission in this Krishna Consciousness movement, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, is to increase the Lord's delight. So I have been working on one book, and then in the last chapter I compare the mission of Lord Krishna at Kurukshetra with the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this modern time. So actually the mission is exactly the same. The point is being made here that the Lord's behavior is absolute. Now we see it has become a bit of a fashion in recent times for neophyte devotees. I mean, they're neophyte, although they may have been in ISKCON for quite a number of years. But by neophyte, I mean they become very easily attracted to some line of thought presented by a Vaishnava, sadhu. But that line of thought is not in line with Srila Prabhupada's teachings. And they find it very interesting, and they want to know more about it. And it starts off by some kind of comparison. Well, there's so many things that Prabhupada said that he's also saying, few things are different, but that can be adjusted. Let us go on hearing. And then gradually, step by step, there's no more attempt to adjust. Rather, that Srila Prabhupada was, see, he is the previous Acharya, and this is the present Acharya. And the new Acharya has come to bring us up to date. There are few things that we misunderstood for Prabhupada's teachings. Now he is here to correct them. So in this way, eventually it becomes a case of giving up the instructions of Srila Prabhupada altogether. So we have seen since Prabhupada's departure, even it was starting to happen while Prabhupada was still on the planet. Although Srila Prabhupada, in those cases, he stopped it very severely. But after Prabhupada left, then this phenomenon grew, and it is still with us. There's a latest chapter of this going on right now in our movement. So we see in this, when this manifestation appears, that there is an attempt to distinguish the Lord's pastimes, different pastimes of the Lord. Distinguish on the basis of high or low, or you see, this is a better pastime for us because we are Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We should be attracted to the Lord's dance with the gopis. That is really where the nectar is. And Krishna speaking to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Actually, when the same thing, the same symptom of deviation took place in Los Angeles in the 70s when Prabhupada was on the planet, that was one thing that was very prominent, that they were saying things like, because you see, the point is here, the reason they're doing this, who can do this? You see, they will justify, but these statements are there in the Shastras, yes. These statements are there as presented by Rasacharya. And Rasacharya means Srila Rupa Goswami. So Rupa Goswami, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, what is their position? They are the most confidential associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, authorities in Rasa. And we should not imitate them. Those statements are there. But when Prabhupada heard that someone was saying among this group, the so-called Gopi Baba Club, there were no. So when someone was saying that gopis are superior, the love of the gopis is superior, position of the gopis is superior to that of Mother Yashoda, then Srila Prabhupada became white-hot angry, extremely angry to hear this. Because who can judge these things? Only someone who is on the absolute platform himself, only someone who is expert in loving affairs. And that judgment is, again, it is taking place on the absolute platform. So it is not actually separating things into higher or lower. And that statement, when you read, you'll find that in Srila Prabhupada's own books, in Nectar of Devotion, when he explains this point. It is not that we are to think that the gopis belong to some exclusive club in the spiritual world, and they are the aristocrats, and others are some kind of caste system in the spiritual world. Others are just not where it's at, and we're part of that club, you see. Because we're coming in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so therefore we don't have to be concerned about all these lesser pastimes of the Lord. It's not like that at all. Everything Krishna does is absolutely glorious, and we see the topmost devotee in the spiritual world, Srimati Radharani herself. You see, this is the point. She is so much taken up with Krishna. Her mind is so much absorbed in Krishna that anything he does is the object of her adoration, her full absorption. So she is discussing all of Krishna's pastimes in all of his incarnations. That is right there in the Krishna book. When they are speaking about Lord Krishna, they're also referring to his pastimes as Lord Ramchandra, saying it is not surprising that this Krishna is unfair to us, because after all, he killed Bali, the king of the monkeys, from behind. He shot him from behind as Lord Ramchandra. So this also, it's not fair. So that's how he's doing things. So in this way, this is all, also this seems like criticism, but it is glorification. So these things they require an actual transcendental intelligence, a transcendental position. One must be on the transcendental platform in order to understand all these things properly. So someone who's a neophyte, someone who's not even able to follow the order of their own spiritual master here in the material world, now what does this person have to say about the gopis? What does this person have to say about the position of the gopis in relationship to Mother Yashoda or Arjuna? How can such a person say, as they were saying in those days, that, well, whenever I hear Bhagavad Gita, I just fall into mine? Meaning that, it's such a, less important scripture, on such a low platform of rasa, that if I listen to that, I just become overwhelmed by duality. You see. And this is the typical sahajya contamination. Sahajya means cheap. So this is the typical sahajya contamination. So, but actually, when we see just like here, I can see this picture of Lord Krishna surrounded by the gopis, and they're all there rendering different services to him. So these gopis are considered most exalted because of what? Because they follow to letter perfection the Lord's topmost instruction in the Bhagavad Gita. The topmost instruction in Bhagavad Gita, it is called the Charan Shloki. That is a term used by Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan. Charan Shloki means of all the 700 shlokas in the Gita, there is one which is topmost, one which is the culmination, where the whole text reaches the peak, just like a mountain. So a mountain is very great, every point on the mountain is magnificent, but finally the mountain comes to a point. And so that one shloka, Sarva Dharman Parichaja Mamikam Sharanam Braja, is the topmost instruction. The Lord is saying, give everything up and just surrender to me. And so the gopis are doing, and they're doing in a way which all other devotees, all pure devotees are doing. But all other devotees, they honor and respect the gopis that just see their example of following this instruction of the Lord. Because They are simple women. The gopis are village ladies. They have their husbands, they have their family, but they give everything up to enter the forest, as we see in this painting, to be with Krishna. So Arjuna is, in another way, doing the same. What are the gopis doing? They're giving up their family attachments to be with Krishna. So what was Arjuna's problem in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita? He didn't want to fight because of family attachment. So when Arjuna picked up his bow, his Gandiva bow, and put an arrow on the string, and told Krishna, drive my chariot, now let us fight. So he was doing the same as when the gopis come to Krishna, leaving behind their husbands and their babies and all their relatives, and not caring for what anyone will say. Because Arjuna at that moment was also open. He was also subject to being criticized by mundane moralists. What? You are going to kill your own family? What is this? But this is the meaning of surrender. And so similarly, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just as Arjuna 5,000 years ago was killing millions and millions of men, killing them. But that killing was not, again, the same thing we can say. It was not animalistic. Because of the Lord's presence, because this was the fulfillment of Krishna's own plan, and Krishna was there personally present to receive Arjuna's sacrifice. He was, actually, we were explaining yesterday, sacrifice. So Arjuna was sacrificing all these men. And the Purusha of that sacrifice was revealed in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the universal form. You could actually see, or Arjuna could actually see, how Krishna was going to enjoy that sacrifice. All those mouths were there, and he was devouring all the soldiers. So, this was to their absolute benefit. Srila Prabhupada confirms that everyone who died on that battlefield was liberated. Similarly, the Nam Sankirtan Yagya, sacrifice of the holy name, is liberating everyone. It is also subject to criticism. Oh, you are destroying families. These young boys and girls, they're leaving the safe shelter of their homes. They're leaving the loving protection of their parents, who've trained them up in all kinds of nasty activities. They're leaving that. Leaving it all behind. What is this? This is Sarva Dharmam Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. This is following Krishna's instruction. And this is liberating. And Prabhupada said this movement is so powerful that even those who become angered by it, who blaspheme it, you see, who criticize this very thing, that families are being broken up, young people are leaving their parents, wives are leaving their husbands, or husbands are leaving their wives, or both are leaving one another, giving up their Maya relationship and entering this movement, and what are you doing? Even those who criticize in this way, by their fixed attention, just like Kamsa, so by their fixed attention upon ISKCON, upon Sankirtan, they're also liberated. It's a fact. When Prabhupada was told that one of these deprogrammers would rip up his books in front of the victim, the devotee that had been captured, and Prabhupada said, that deprogrammer will attain human birth in the next life. That is very good, because he has touched my books. So you see, this movement is all auspicious. All auspicious. So, this is the nature of Krishna's pastimes, all of his pastimes. Even when he is showing anger, even when he is destroying the demons with great ferocity, it is absolutely auspicious in all respects. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions? Yes?
You were speaking about Lord Nrsimhadev. I was wanting to know, is it difficult to approach Lord Nrsimhadev in prayer or like that without being offensive because of his angry mood?
Well, Lord Chaitanya has said that Nrsimhadev, he's made this comparison to a mother lioness. So in this lion community, the lioness is even more ferocious than the male lion, because the lioness, she has cubs to feed. So she's the male lion. The lion community is very interesting, and when we hear about their habits, then we can understand how it is that this is one junction to the human form of life, from lion, birth in lion species, then the next step is to become human being in the mode of passion. So they have very interesting relationships, these lions. And so male lions, there are some among the male lions who have nothing to do with the ladies at all. They just, like, it's known that sometimes two male lions will just become friends, and then they just travel together. They're not interested in having any affairs with female lions. So these two friends will be very relaxed and kind of just wander through the savannah. And whenever they feel hungry, you see, because lions, they take a long time to digest their food. When they get something to eat, then they gorge themselves. They fill their belly to the max. And then for a few weeks, they just lay around. So two male lion friends, that's what they do. They're mainly laying around telling jokes and, and relaxing, just, taking it easy. And then one day they look at each other and say, "You feel hungry?" "Yeah, I feel hungry today." "Well, okay, let's go then. Let's go find a zebra." And so then they run down some zebra, kill it, and then they have their meal, which satisfies them for another few weeks. But the lioness, she is not relaxed. She's, as the term is, laid back. She's not laid back at all, because she has these hungry little lion cubs. Usually there's 4 of them. And they're lions, they're growing lions. That means they have to have a lot of fresh meat. So the lioness is always going out every day practically and running down something, an antelope, a zebra. So she's very, very ferocious. And also she's defending her cubs. So she has her cubs in a special place. She goes out from there to hunt. But there's always danger. There are jackals and other kinds of beasts which will kill her cubs and eat them if they have the chance. So she's not only ferocious in the sense of hunting down prey, but she's always looking around if there's any enemy of my cubs that may come. So she's always in this very heavy mood. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has compared Narasimhadev to a lioness, and he's compared Prahlad to the cub. So the lioness she will not tolerate any outsider coming near her den, and she's hunting every day, ferociously killing so many animals. But in spite of that, to her cub, she is most gentle and loving. She's just, then she's just a picture of motherly love. She's taking care of her cubs, she's licking them, cleaning them. She calls them to follow her and trains them up how to hunt. And so we must become the cub of Lord Nrsimhadev. That means we must become devotee. So to become the cub, to become accepted by Lord Nrsimhadev, means to become accepted as Vaishnava by the authorized process, to take spiritual master, receive initiation, and to serve Krishna under the direction of spiritual master, avoiding offenses. In this way, the Supreme Lord becomes happy with us. In that position, when one is in that position, actually it's guaranteed by Krishna. You need to have no doubt. The Lord himself told Durvasa Muni that not only are my devotees, that famous verse where he says, Aham bhakta pradino hi ashvatanta iva dvija sadhubhir grasta hridaya bhakto bhakta janapriya. Very beautiful verse. With another interesting comparison, the Lord here is comparing himself to an animal. Lord Nrsimhadev was compared to a lioness by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So here, the Lord, he compares himself, I'm just like an animal in my relationship with my devotees, like a pet animal. And sometimes you can actually make a pet out of a lion. There are persons who have done it. And then Yashvatanta. Yashvatanta means then I have no dependence from my devotee. Just like even such an animal as a lion, one becomes the pet, and then the owner can place a collar around the neck and go for a walk with the lion on the leash. So the lion being sold out in a loving relationship to this person who is the owner, then the lion is so huge. Still, when the owner jerks on the leash, now let us stop, the lion will stop. And when the owner indicates, let's go, the lion will walk. So Krishna compares himself to this. For my devotee, I become just like that. He can put a collar on my neck and take me wherever he wants. I'll just follow him. I'll stop when he tells me to stop. I'll go when he tells me to go. So this is the confidential relationship between the Lord and his devotee. Now this verse ends with Bhakta Jana Priya. Now what does this mean? The Lord is saying, not only are my devotees dear to me, not only are they Priya, but the Bhakta Jana Priya. The Bodhi Bhakta Jana means the followers of my devotees. So this is how one becomes dear to Krishna. Devotee means spiritual master. We understand that spiritual master is a confidential associate of the Lord. So we must become the follower, the jana, the follower of the pure devotee. And then Krishna says, Bhakta Jana Priya, they are also as dear to me as my devotees. So this is how we can become dear to Lord Nrsimhadev. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Srila Sukha Swami ki jai.